you, Father. Call me Father.
I told you not to go running off to that academy.
I'm not some quivering neurotic who feels sorry for himself because his daddy wasn't nice.
Hey, it's Janelle Waz, and what's the deal with Star Trek's daddy issues? I don't know what's going on with Starfleet's finest, but even with a counselor on board, there's still a lot of unresolved feelings with the old man. No, not that old man.
It's good to see you too, old man.
Now, to be fair, there are plenty of characters in Star Trek that have good, healthy relationships with their fathers. Or had. Enough of them have passed on that it's almost on par with a Disney movie. But if you look across the Star Trek shows and see how many times a father shows up and makes things uncomfortable, you'd swear most of the main cast has to be in a weekly group therapy session. You guys need a hug? Heck, even in the original series, Mr. Spock struggled with his human and Vulcan halves. And also Daddy's approval. Stoic, logical, Mr. Science Mr. Spock has a lot going for him to make any father proud. If pride wasn't a human emotion.
It does not require pride to ask that Spock be given the respect which is his due.
Yeah, Spock's a little too human for Papa Sarek,
I haven't even finished breakfast and that boy ain't right.
who apparently has a thing for Earth girls. He married 2 of them! Heck, Spock didn't even mention that the fancy ambassador who was beaming on board the Enterprise was his father.
Care to beam down and visit your parents?
Ambassador Sarek and his wife are my parents.
Well, to be fair, Spock doesn't really talk about his family much.
I do not have a brother.
Hey, you see? See?
I have a half-brother.
I gotta sit down.
Now, what exactly is Sarek's beef with Spock? Well, Sarek wanted the boy to follow in his footsteps and go to the Vulcan Science Academy. He chose Starfleet.
He chose to devote his knowledge to Starfleet instead of the Vulcan Science Academy.
Bitter much? Sounds a little emotional.
Are you always this emotional?
But when push comes to shove and Sarek needs a blood transfusion, Spock is there for some risky surgery for his dad. Provided Kirk tricks him to do it after he's been stabbed. But hey, when your father convinces your best friend to get your soul back into your regenerated body, and even goes to bat for you in front of the galaxy's leaders, do they really have so bad of a relationship?
When the debates over the Cardassian War began, he attacked Sarek's position publicly.
Oh, good lord, they're still fighting a century later? But at least Picard can kind of relate to Spock because guess whose father also didn't want him to join Starfleet?
After all these years, even now, you manage to disappoint me, Jean-Luc.
So what's the reason for Papa Picard's disappointment? Not going into the family wine business. Looks like Picard and Sons is going to have to rebrand. But at least Picard gets along with his number 1 dad.
He's my number 1 dad.
But the number 1 apple doesn't fall too far from the number 1 tree.
I'm proud of you, son. If you'll excuse me, I've got my duties to attend to.
Well, clearly Kyle Riker is proud of his bearded son. Heck, he even encourages him to accept his own command. Yeah, good luck with that, Pops. So, what's the problem?
I've been on my own since I was 15.
15? You left your son when he was 15? No wonder he wants to hit you with a stick. Heck, Dr. Pulaski of all people was the only one to get through to Riker. Though, to be fair, she was almost his stepmom.
You know, if I were you, going out on the Ares, I'd jettison the emotional baggage you're still carrying around.
Weirdly enough, none of this affected how good Riker is with kids. No wonder the ladies love them some Riker.
I hung in for 13 years. If that wasn't enough, it's just too bad.
And speaking of abandonment, Data? He's actually on some alright terms with his father. Lore, on the other hand,
Would have proven myself worthy to you if you'd just given me a chance.
Now, to be fair to Lore, Dr. Sung was supposed to fix him, but built Data instead and was gonna come back to him later. Yeah, we all know how well that works out. At the same time, look, Lore, all Dr. Sung wanted was for you to not be evil.
Where's Data? Where's Data? You didn't fill Data with substandard parts, did you, old man?
Worf and Alexander? Oh yeah, perfect father-son relationship.
I hate him.
Now, I've defended Worf's decision to leave Alexander with his parents in the past. He did need a stable environment to grow up in, which wasn't the Enterprise. but you can't deny the consequences. How was he more of a badass as a kid? Well, looks like the Klingon daddy issues followed Worf to DS9.
Dr. Mora's Chamber of Horrors, open for business.
Or maybe not. Sounds like it was already brewing. Well, I guess when you have Ben and Jake Sisko as model father and son, everyone else pales in comparison. Plain simple Elam Garrick, his father wouldn't even acknowledge him until he was on his deathbed. Never mind how he used to lock him in the closet.
I wasn't trapped. I knew he'd let me out as soon as I learned my lesson.
That's still pretty messed up. Chief Medical Officer and Station's ladies' man, Julian Bashir, his dad had him illegally genetically altered. Yeah, remember Khan? To be fair, Richard and Amsha Bashir were worried about their son.
I was still trying to tell a dog from a cat, a tree from a house.
Heck, Julian was so pissed about it, he ended up changing his name and moving to DS9. He even almost lost his career over it. Think all the daddy issues stay in the Alpha Quadrant? Nope! Delta Quadrant daddy issues. Not that.
I don't know how I'm going to enter this into the log.
Chakotay? His dad just wanted him to learn about his roots, but he wanted to go to Starfleet. Though admittedly, Kolopak was a little more understanding than Sarek and Maurice Picard.
You will never belong to that other life, and if you leave, you will never belong to this one.
Well, also to be fair, Chakotay was acting like a little jerk throughout their entire trip. Imagine his shock when it turned out everything his father taught him ended up being useful in the Delta Quadrant.
Chamusi.
Hey, Tom Paris didn't live up to Daddy's expectations either. He was a B- student. Look, Admiral, not every kid is going to grow up to be an astronaut. And B'Elanna! Poor B'Elanna. She got along with her father until the camping trip from hell.
My teacher said Klingons like live food.
Yeah, and instead of talking to his snot-nosed nephews, John Torres gives this nugget of wisdom for dealing with bullies.
I used to fall asleep in class all the time. So instead of John Torres, they called me John Snorres.
Yeah, that compares to being bullied for being Klingon.
She's gotten moody, unpredictable, argumentative, just like her mother.
I mean, can we really blame B'Elanna for her daddy issues?
12 days later, Daddy never came back.
Holy shit. You know, as much as I roast Troy for being on the Enterprise D, maybe Voyager should have had a counselor. Now that's not to say everyone in Star Trek has daddy issues. You guys okay over there? There are a few that are on good terms with their fathers. Heck, the Sisko fatherly love extends 3 generations. It's a beautiful thing. Captain Janeway, she became a full-blown scientist because of her father. Major Kira was also close with her father after her mother died. Worf and Sergei Rashenko, as well as Helena, they both look at their son with such pride. They're adorable and I love them.
I have all the specs and diagrams at home.
But even with all the good Starfleet father relationships, the question remains, why are there so many daddy issues in Star Trek? Could it be something in the writer's psyche that made its way on screen? Well, possibly, but in all seriousness, I think there's far more to it than that. In Star Trek, daddy issues seem to fall into 2 categories: not living up to expectations and overcoming past resentment. And it's the struggle of our main characters to come to terms with these feelings, whether confronting those feelings with their father or on their own. When the father does appear, child and parent ultimately find an understanding with each other, or at the very least, the father recognizes the accomplishments of the child. Sometimes, though, things have to be settled posthumously, either with the acceptance of your personal decisions or an eventual understanding of the old man. Just like in real life, the feelings between father and child can be complex, and it happens a lot more often than you think. You guys still okay over there? I don't think there's any particular reason why Starfleet attracts people who butt heads with their fathers, other than it's fairly common among people. If I had a nickel for every Star Trek character who had daddy issues, I'd have at least 11 nickels. Which isn't a lot, but it's weird that I have that many.
Listen to him, Chakotay. Do you hear what he says to you?
Yes, Father.
Well, that's all I have about the daddy issues of Star Trek, but what about you? Have you noticed this particular pattern in Star Trek? Is it overused or used just enough across multiple shows? Does Star Trek handle it well, or did it completely miss the point? And most importantly, are there any examples that I missed? Please leave comments below and discuss. As always, thanks for tuning in to another Star Trek video. If you like what you see, why not give my video a like and subscribe to my channel? Tell your friends. Until next time.
You choose your enemies, you choose your friends. But family, that's in the stars.